steps again behind me, and turn to face them. A pair of eyes are headed toward me in the darkness. Golden eyes, like a cat staring into a flashlight or something, but human height. I back up against the car and then slide back into the driver's seat. I back up out the driveway and leave as fast as I can. Tires squawking a little bit as I leave. I radio to Central that cross street is off limits for me tonight. Every time I've picked up on that street since I hear the howling in the distance, but I don't go looking for it anymore. This has been an unseasonably warm December. It snows, but it melts off in a few days or less. Fog everywhere, thick fog too. The nights have been so bad that we have to limit our service area just after dark for about an hour. Central calls and tells me to pick up at the local supermarket. Roll up. There's an old lady there, not quite as old as Marceline but up there in the blue hair territory. I get out and help load her groceries into the car. She waits politely as I load the groceries. I close the trunk and open the door for her to get in. She hands me her cane and slides into the front passenger's seat. It's getting dark and I have to take her out of town where the fog is very thick. I hand her her cane and shut the door. We get out onto the main route to her house and the fog begins to get thicker. I turn on the fog lights but they do little more than help me stay between the yellow and white lines. Basically in my lane. Let's call her Vera. Lyra leans toward the dash squinting her eyes. Lots of fog tonight. She states as if she's trying to use some super seeing power. Yeah, it's been like this for a week or so now. I reply slowing down as we come to a bend in the road. She leans back in her seat, I guess realizing she can't see through the fog like Superman or something. You're a good driver. I'm glad you're going slow through this mess. Thank you, ma'am. I'm doing my best. I'm Vera, and you are? David. Most people call me Dave when I'm not in trouble. I reply sarcastically. The fog is so thick now I can just make out my lane and literally nothing more. Maybe 4 feet in front of the car. Thankfully the GPS I keep strapped to the dash helps me stay on the road headed toward her house. We arrive at her driveway. I almost drive into the ditch, turning into it though because I can't see where the road is at this point. We drive down what feels like a mile-long dirt driveway until I see the floodlights on the barn next to her house. We pull up to the door connecting to her driveway. I help her get out. She insists on staying out here with me. I shrug it off. I unload the groceries to just inside her door. We have a policy about going inside people's houses. I put the milk and other heavy things on the counter for her, and explain not to mention it or somebody's going to call me by David. She laughs it off as I head to the door. I open the door and her laughter stops immediately. I'm still facing her. I turn slowly to look out the board to find out what stopped her laughing. I see a bunch of humanoid shapes standing around my car. The floodlights from the barn give the fog an eerie glow that really highlights these shapes. These shapes standing around my car move on, and more come along. I shut the door and she steps up to the window next to the door. She pulls back the curtain and waves her hand to me to tell me to come look. Dozens of them walking by now, headed up her driveway toward the road. I see what looks like a wagon being pulled by a horse go right through my car like it isn't even there. The fog just moves around the car and reforms at the back bumper. She covers her mouth and we wait for the fog to dissipate. What feels like hours go by, and really it's only 15 minutes. By now I've counted at least 30 including the wagon going by. The fog begins to sink to the ground and disappear. The night air has become too cold for the fog to be so high. I reach for the door handle but I notice she's pretty rattled. Vera sighed tonight. I'll call my daughter, she'll come stay the night with me. She says, stroking her chin, looking out the window still. I open the door and begin to head down her steps to my car. She comes to the door and peeks out. Be careful, David. I smile to her. Go call you daughter Vera. and have a better night. I get in the car, and have a little bit of a freak out after she closes the door and turns on her kitchen lights. I sit back in my seat and breathe off the anxiety I'm having over this before recording the fair. Central asks what took so long, and I tell them that she's a chatty old lady. Who the fuck would believe me about the fog parade I just saw? On my way back into town, the fog is lower now, much easier to see. But I can see their footsteps in the road, the way the fog is moving, like people walking through water. I slow down as I come up on them, but decide to drive through. Nothing happens, they keep walking, I drive on. I ask one of my buddies who's a local yokel, he knows about the area's history. He explains that Vera's land used to be a troop gathering point when soldiers from this area left to serve in the Civil War. I ask why there, and he explains that her family used to feed and supply the troops leaving. So this one just happened recently. Get a call from Central, guy came in on the bus, needs a ride 3 towns over. Turn down my radio and head over to the bus station. Guy is buying a sandwich and a soda. Looks like an out-of-stater, but whatever. He's stone silent in the back until he unwraps his food. The guy eats like he's never eaten food before. Chugs the soda and tosses the trash out the window. Hey man, littering is illegal here. I've got a trash bag. Just ask. Okay, my bad. He apologizes and almost immediately falls asleep in the back. Oh boy. JPEG. Here we go. JPEG. We arrive at the town, and before I can ask him where to drop him off, he wakes up and starts giving me directions. This is a little weird. He directs me up to a lakeside camp, and asks me to come in and help him get the fire started. I'm pretty uneasy about this, but I'm a sucker for $20 bills. He and I go in. The lake house is pretty cool. 1 story, 2 bedrooms, fireplace, gas oven, old-timey fridge. He has no idea how to start a fire. So I get the fireplace roaring and he hands me a couple 20s on top of my fare. Before I get out of the town, Central calls me and tells me to go back. Are you serious? I get back there and he's sitting on the ground by the mailbox. He gets in front with me and asks me to take him to town. I explain it's the same fare because I'm out of town. He agrees and I take him to McDonald's, the bank, and the hardware store. He takes a really long time at the hardware store. Central is pissed. He comes out with a box full of shit. I joke with him about building a 2nd floor, he wants none of it. Not even a chuckle. We get back to the lake house and he's mowing down on food again. Eating like he's starving. He asks me to carry the box in because he's got to unlock the door. He opens the door. The place is plastered with symbols. Triangles. Squares. Hexagons. Squiggly math symbols. He has me set the stuff on the floor and again tips me on top of the fare. I get back to my service area. Central calls and explains that he's on the phone asking if I can do a grocery run. Alright, enough. I've spent the whole day with this psycho. A cartload of groceries. Almost 300 in food. He's nowhere to be found this time. I find a check made out to the company with the cost of the groceries factored into it, the fare, and my tip. Again. I get into the car. Cops pull in behind me. Oh great, this again. Officer McSizzlin Bacon asks me to get out of the car with my hands up. I abide. The dude abides. He frisks me, they search the car. No guns, no nothing. He shows me a picture of the guy I've been dealing with. I explain what's happened underscore. They put me in the back of a cruiser and bust into the house. Next thing I know, McSizzlin Bacon gets in and we leave. Am I being charged with anything? Accessory to murder. The fuck you say, nigga? brought to the state police barracks and interrogated. It's not like the movies. I'm sitting at McSizzlin' Bacon's desk as he writes what I have to say down. No handcuffs either. We're really cool shit here in Maine, I guess. McSizzlin' Bacon shows me a picture of a woman and 2 kids. Don't know them. He asks me about the guy again. This goes in for about 2 hours. Finally McSizzlin' Bacon loads me up into the cruiser and we head back to my cab. His cell phone goes off and he flips on the blues as he answers it. He guns it as we careen toward the big bridge connecting the mainland to the island nearby. He fast and furious his way through a couple of intersections. We roll up on what looks like a piggy convention on the bridge. He parks below the bridge barrier and Call of Duties his way to the drunk where he puts on his riot gear. Stay in the car. 5 minutes later the SWAT truck shows up. Bang bang. Yellow smoke rises up over the bridge. Bang bang. Gunshots. McSizzlin' Bacon comes back and we head to the lake house. You're free to go. We've apprehended our suspect. Okay. Who do I sue for this? Get smart and I'll shut off the dash camera. I put my hands up as he lets me out of the car and I back my way to the taxi. He backs out and floors it leaving me. Off tape is all over the place. One officer on duty hanging out on the deck. Nice day for a crime scene, officer. Move along. I salute and get in my car. The next day I get a call from his attorney. He asks me if the guy mentioned anything about lights over the lake, or why he painted those shapes on the walls. I refer him to my statement to the police. News story comes across the TV as I'm on the phone. Triple homicide. GF's son, and GF's daughter. Slaughtered like animals. Ask the attorney if we're done. Attorney explains that his guy is suffering from mental issues, and that it's illegal for me to go shooting my mouth off to the media. I explain that his client is a crazy asshole and that he deserves the chair. Attorney hangs up. Central tells me McSizzlin' Bacon called and apologized for his actions. I shrug it off. Get home late one night after working the bars. Check email and Central has me scheduled for a weekend booking in the West End part of the state. Okay, fine. Didn't want to clean up puke this weekend anyway. Clean up Escalade for airport pickup. 3 dudes from out west coming in. They have English names, even though they were clearly Native Americans, so let's call them Jeff, Carl, and Ryan. Arrive at airport, stand at escalator with my sign with Jeff's name on it because he's the one who set up the booking. 3 clearly native dudes come down the escalator. I'm expecting dances with wolves, eagle shadow, and split arrow for names. No. Jeff, Carl, and Ryan. That's fine then. JPEG. Load their luggage that is just some canvas sacks and a big wooden trunk. Trunk is heavy as fuck. On the way up they tell native jokes, and make fun of the way we drive in Maine. Herd their cars instead of horses. Now if you don't know, there's only one road that goes to the far western portion of the state of Maine. The northwestern corner of the state is literally devoid of human development, straight up Bear Grylls territory. Jeff tells me to head toward Jackman and he'll tell me